share it with YouTube. Okay, we're recording, and this is maybe our, fifth session, I'm not certain, on astrology. One of the things I want to talk about a little bit today is the argument about fate and free will. It's a big argument. People that are that want to dismiss astrology will often make that argument that is it fate or is it free will, or do we have any choices in all these things? And I want to mention that we're talking about in terms of free will. I believe that there are overarching influences that can impact all of our lives. I mean, if a plane goes down with 100 or 200 people, obviously, is that on each of their charts? No, I think there are accidents in the universe. I do think that. But I also believe in karma. And that is Saturn's role, to exact, if you would, when necessary, to discipline us and to teach us the hard lessons of life, that what we've sowed, we're going to reap, because Saturn is the reaper. And or Satan, if you would, is the reaper. And I often tell you the story about Job and all the things that happened to Job. And the question that comes out often with people that are reading that story, thinking, why is it that a just God would allow a righteous man, which is described as Job, to suffer all of these things in his life? And I mentioned that there's one scripture that kind of reveals that whole experience for Job, and that scripture is easy to miss because Job is very righteous in everything he does and says, and he never does do what Satan wants him to do, which is an angel, Saturn, Satan. And of course, he's in the council of the angels with the other angels, as he is an angel, albeit he's fallen. And he says, let me work on Job for a while and he'll curse you to your face. So we understand what Saturn's role is to do, is to get you to curse. Okay, and that's the very opposite of praising, which is what I try to teach everyone, to teach you to praise, give thanks, and trust in good. So in this case, of course, the question is, why would Job, being such a righteous man, be allowed to have Saturn curse his life with so many afflictions and all of the things that happened to him? And the question is simply in one scripture, as one describes what he went through, and that is, Job said, what I feared most came upon me. What I feared most came upon me. And what I'm trying to explain to you is that fear is faith. If you fear you're going to be a widow, you're probably going to be. If you fear you're going to have a lonely life and no love in your life, you probably will, because your faith is being exercised in your fear, and your fear is an active energy, and it's very powerful. It's like a dog that attacks a person. Very often, that person has such intense fear, they attract that dog's attack, because a dog picks that up very quickly by the smell and other things that he's sensing. So it's fear that we need to recognize. And in charts and doing work with clients, you're going to find that very often people, especially women that are in relationships that are, I think he's going to leave me, I think he's unfaithful, I think he's this, I believe this. The very beliefs create the reality. And you betray that lack of faith in the things you say to that partner. Every time you say, do you love me? You just express fear and an absence of faith in that person's love. So the question belies the problem that you've created. It's actually creating what you don't want to have in your life by the very act of asking the question. I would never want to ask my wife, do he love me? I really never want. I don't think I've ever done that. What I would be doing in that very act would be showing a lack of faith in her. and a lack of faith in what I believe. So these are questions that revolve around fate and free will. A lot of things that we do and we create in our own life, we are creating by our lack of faith in good. So when I emphasize in my clients' work to begin praising and giving thanks and trusting in good, and by the way, it's not easy. When I say praise, you don't feel like doing that. It even says in scripture, let the fruit of your lips be the sacrifice of praise. That means you don't feel like doing it. When my dog got hit by a car and was laying there dead, I didn't feel like praising the Lord and giving thanks. I started out cursing as I ran to see his body on that cement when that car hit him. At the same time, I remembered the scriptures, which said, let the fruit of your lips be the sacrifice of praise. And what is God's will for me in my life? What is it? Rejoice evermore? How do you rejoice when your dog's laying dead on a cement? Pray without ceasing. The word says pray, but it's praise without ceasing. And in all things give thanks. How do you do that in the moment of such crises and such disastrous experiences? And I did it anyway, as that dog lay in front of me. And I remember how stupid I sounded when I did it. When I said, praise the Lord, thank you, the guy was standing next to me. I said it out loud. The guy that hit the dog felt very bad because he hit him, and he came running over to see if he could help. And as I said those words, I said it 3 times, praise the Lord, thank you. Praise the Lord, thank you. Because I had to offer a sacrifice. That's what my sacrifice was. What? Not knowing the future, having faith in omniscient knowledge and all-knowing God, that all things are working together for good. So I remember having a reflective moment where I said to myself, well, maybe this dog would attack a child tomorrow. I don't know the future. Maybe I was trying to justify my praising of this action, of this crisis. And at the moment that I said those words, and I had that thought, trying to rationalize irrational behavior, the dog jumps up off the cement. He had blood in his nose. He was not breathing. And he jumps up like a wild animal and took off running and got caught in a fenced-in yard across the street. And I managed to catch up with him, and he dragged me home in a full run. My ex-wife was a vet assistant for 2 years. She knew dogs well, and she couldn't find any indication that he had been hit, except for a terrible odor, which is sphincter smell that came from his anal area, which smelled so bad. So, I tell you these stories, I know I repeat them, but I repeat them for a reason, because I want you to get it in your head that you got to start praising and giving thanks. You've got to let go of the fears. You've got to have faith, and faith in good, and then other people pick it up. People see you, they know who you are, they understand your energies. And people that are constantly finding fault and accusing are usually guilty themselves. There's a lot of guilt in them. The more guilty you are, the more you accuse. That's just the way it works. The most accusatory people are the most guilty people. So what I'm trying to get to you is, when you're dealing with clients, you're going to be dealing with people. You're not dealing with charts, you're dealing with people. You're dealing with their lives. You're trying to create a new life for them, a new beginning. And the only way you can do that is get beyond all the guilt and accusations, self-recriminations, and other things that are bringing a person down. So if you're doing a chart and you're just dwelling on the Saturn's doing this and doing that, and Saturn's causing this, what are you doing? You're building more fear in that person. You're creating the real thing that you don't want to do. So how do you get around these dilemmas? How do you see a chart and resolve it in a way that the person can deal with it in a constructive and a positive way? You can only teach them to praise and give thanks and trust in good. Very scriptural. I know I'm a nut about all this, and I'll keep pounding it into you. It's not just about your life, it's about the clients. You're going to be a steward of somebody else's life. That's going to influence them. So, when you're dealing with karma, you're dealing with past lives as well. We don't escape that. I heard a rabbi describe Satan when the epidemics were starting out as the prosecutor in heaven. I thought, boy, that's sure Saturn. He's the prosecutor. Okay, he's fair. Remember, he's the Santa Claus of astrology. Santa Claus. The word Santa came from where? Look at the word in itself. It's Satan. Just transliterate, take the words and the letters later, and you'll get Satan from Santa. And Santa Claus was fair and just, but he was righteous. He would withhold the good from those that are naughty. Kind of a parody about Saturn, but he would give gifts to those who are good. So that's a side of Saturn we don't tend to see. Saturn is just, he's very fair. He's like the very stern father, okay, which Jared had. He's the stern father. He's fair and he's just, but he's severe when he has to be. The Lord chastises those he loves. That's scripture. Did you hear me? The Lord chastises. We get chastised sometimes, don't we? Because we carry guilt and recrimination, and we create our own chastisement. We don't see it, but we do. We undo ourselves. How's that for a sermon? I guess I get. I want to get to the core of it. I'm trying to keep you centered on the core. Okay, what makes a good astrologer? A good astrologer is somebody that's able to be in the now. When you're with a client, you're not distracted by, oh, I got to get some milk later. Oh, my wife wants me to do this. All that's taking up your space. You need to be in the center of it, in the now. And the only way you can be in that condition of now is by loving others. Think about it. What unifies us? What puts us together? It's love. And it's not fear, and it's not all this other stuff. It's love. And if you love others, and if you truly love others, you can unify with them. You'll merge with their souls. And you'll see things that you will never realize in a chart. You'll just see things. You'll interpret the chart, but yet all of a sudden it'll mean something more than that, because you see into their souls. And I'll be doing a chart, and I remember I told you once I'm doing a psychic. I used to do psychic fairs, and I was very open and honest with people, and I was really into them, into their space. And I would see things when I was doing their chart. A mother, a woman that's married to a lawyer who had a previous marriage, and the husband loved his daughter, and she was very jealous of that love because it wasn't her daughter. And she was very angry because he took her with him on a vacation that she was going on. And I called her out on it. I said, you're a selfish woman. You don't know how to love. And she started crying. And I always had tissues on my table because I know I was going to hit a hard note for some people. But I told it like it was, because I wanted to unbear her soul. And I wanted to reach into her soul and let her know she's creating the divorce. And her husband's going to leave her. Unless, here's the out, unless she changes and starts to love others and love her own stepdaughter. And that's a counseling role you're going to have. Your job isn't just to do a chart and say, it's a good sunny day to go shopping. It's not about all that. It's about reaching into their souls, into their real soul. And astrology will give you the tools to do that. Okay? So, listen, while you guys, I talk a lot, so don't feel like you're interrupting me if you want to ask a question. So, I'm here for both. So what I want to do today is I want to bring you back to the core realities you're dealing with. To be a good astrologer, you have to be in the now, you have to be centered, you have to be in the person that you're dealing with, you have to look into their souls. because in their soul is all of their memories, all of the things they've done. Everything's there. It's all in a book inside them. And you can access that if you really are with them. And that means looking in their face and looking in their eyes. That means that when you're centered and in that place, you'll be able to do that. It's when you're distracted, you're looking around, you're not paying attention to the person, you're trying to look at the chart, you're trying to get all this stuff, but you're really not into that person. You understand where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
So that means you have to love others, okay? Okay. So how do we deal with karma? Think about that. I was reading my book. Sometimes I read my own books on astrology and the cosmic key. And I dealt with that question about fate and free will in this book a little bit. And basically, the answer is about fate and free will is that the only thing that absolves us from the karma of Saturn is love. The only thing that absolves us is love. And that sounds like a very abstract term, love, okay, but that means loving yourself and loving others and forgiving others, because love implies what? That you forgive others. Because a lot of you or us are carrying a lot of garbage about things that have happened to us in the past. And remember, Saturn is the past. Jupiter's the future. And Saturn is living in the past. Saturn is never and always, you never do this. It's non-forgiving. It's finding somebody to blame. And we can spend our whole life doing that. I spent 9 years in prison trying to figure out who's the fault for Ron being here. And the psychologists help you. Let's find out who's the fault for Ron being here. Oh, your mother's married 9 times. Oh, you're raised in boarding homes till you were 9. I had all the excuses for being a bad guy. But those excuses only make you a weakling. They don't make you strong. Living in the past doesn't bring anything into your future or into your present, except grief and sorrow in most cases. Living in the past is destructive. It's not about what it's about. It's about living in the present, being here now. To be in his presence is to be in the present. Did you know that? The more you can be in the present, the more you're in his presence. Okay. So when you're doing charts, I spend a lot of time with Saturn, don't I? I really do. Because I want to look at the karma. I want to look at what's going on in their soul. I want to see what's beset in them, setting them up for stumbling blocks. Saturn is said to be the stumbling block. It's the crises that you're experiencing in your life very often. So I want to start getting into the astrology of the charts a little bit. One of the things that, Jared, do you want to discuss this situation, or do you think it's better not to do it on a recording?
We can discuss it. I mean, I don't know about the recording part of it. If we're gonna put it on YouTube, we should probably at least keep the names.
I wouldn't use a name at all. Okay. Yeah. I want to just tell you, when we're doing these interpretations of these charts, and you have a crisis, okay, which you did. And the crisis was that you were basically judged by another person for not performing what they thought you should have been doing in your life. And that was a just accusation, but it hurts. None of us like to be accused, okay? And to acknowledge that maybe that person's right is even harder, because that makes us even worse. We're wrong, now we're wrong. But one of the things that we start doing in charts is we start doing all these transits, and I'm going to kind of speak to that subject a little bit. I see very often that the transit influences, which are very transitory and very impermanent, we tend to give too much emphasis to them. I taught and I teach 3 simple tools. And you need to stay focused on those 3 tools. Don't get caught up in all the transit. Jupiter's doing this, Pluto's doing that. You know, you're going to get sidetracked too much. Your gifts are there, and you may be able to use those tools in the transits in a meaningful way and achieve great things with them because you're good at intuitive astrologer. Okay, I say that to Benita particularly. She's got the gift. She's got the prophetic gift. She knows it. And she's going to find that out as she keeps working, because her soul is, she's a loving human being, and she's got a lot of love to give. And she combines and joins that person's soul. And that's something you can't give and teach in astrology. You can, I don't care how much astrology you know. So some people have that gift. And sometimes I see it. I see it in Jared very much. I see it in Destiny, but Destiny's got her life so much occupied by so many things, it keeps her a little bit from the goals. And I don't mean that's not a judgment. It's just that I know that your life is very much filled.
We got to pay the bills.
You got it. Exactly, my girl. So I understand all that. So it's not, there's no judgment in all this. It's just that I see you all pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I want to get back to the preliminary simple truth, and that is there's 3 things I taught you, and you need to stay focused on those. In the case of Jared's chart, the first thing I do when I do a chart in Destiny, or either you know this stuff, I know you do. Vanita, you know, she's like a right hand. I say I need the cosmic key send it over for Jared, and she does her immediately too. The point being that we're looking at 3 influences. We're looking at the transit Saturn, Father Time, the measure off of all things. We're trying to see what Saturn's doing, and Saturn's trying to teach us something. So I want to know if it's destructive or injurious, if it's going to cause any problems in a chart. And I looked at Saturn in that 3 things I look for: the progressed moon, the new moon, and transit Saturn. And I look at it and I say, it's not doing anything bad. You know, in fact, it's setting off a grand trine to Mercury, Pluto, and what other planet was that, Vanita?
Sorry. So he has Pluto, but Pluto's right there with his natal Saturn and Mars, and then that Mercury is really close to the Venus. I didn't see the 3rd planet unless we were counting.
Let's look at it.
Okay.
Let me share the screen and let's look at the chart itself.
Sure.
Okay. This is the one you did with
That's with the time passages.
yeah, which will still work. All right.
Okay.
So if we're looking at transit Saturn, it's on the outer circle here.
Mm-hmm.
So Saturn's sitting at 23 Aquarius. Okay. So it's making a perfect grand trine rather at 24 Libra. And by impact also Saturn. Oh, wait, I'm wrong. I'm looking at the progress chart. It's looking at Pluto right here.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to read this. It's so small. Let me see if I can bring it bigger. Okay. So Pluto's at 24 degrees Libra. Transit Saturn's at 23. They're exact trine to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that brings in what? It brings in Venus and Mars. Is this Venus up here?
Venus is next to Mercury up there in Gemini. Maybe not close enough to bring it in, but definitely trying to Mercury up there in Gemini.
Exactly. That's what I want to see. So 19 degrees, almost 20. And then Pluto's over here at what degree?
24.
Okay. And then what's next to that?
Saturn and Mars. Right?
Okay. So it's kind of pulling them all in is what it's doing.
Mhm.
So it's not the third planet. I'm thinking wrongly. It was actually creating a grand trine is what I was trying to say to you. The grand trine from Saturn over here in transit is at 23, and it's making a grand trine to Mercury and to Pluto and these other planets. And so what is it trying to say is the question. So Jared felt a little threatened by the accusations, but I said to Jared, I said, you know, the resolution for this whole thing is communication, Mercury, and Pluto, which means don't keep secrets.
Or
Okay,
avoid manipulation as well.
you got it. Okay, so, you know, don't try to hide anything from his accuser, because it'll only cause more problems, and he needs to sit down with that person, acknowledge his fault, also explain to him what he's been doing, and if he would apologize for that, for taking up too much time, and that you'll make sure that it doesn't do that in the future, and that I really want you to be happy with me and do the job that you assigned to me. And all that'll resolve all this issue very quickly. Now, that's how you read a chart, okay? You look for the influences that are occurring in the chart. And the most important ones, if you look around the chart, there's no major afflictions in this chart. There's actually good aspects. That's all from Saturn. The other thing is the progressed moon. Progressed moon's in that center circle here. It's 10 degrees Taurus. So if you look at this 10 degrees Taurus, you say, what is it doing to the chart? Okay. So it's really afflicting Mars by quincunx, because Mars is at 13. And that shows the emotional conflict going on. Mars conflict, okay. And this Mars will tend to bring and pull in the energies that are around it. So Pluto can also be pulled in, even though it's quite a wide orb. Okay, so how many degrees is this? Can you all see it? My eyes aren't that great.
9. It's 9 degrees from that natal Saturn.
Okay, so you can see where the progressed moon is kind of giving a signal here that there's an accusation going on in his life. You see it?
Mhm.
Yes.
Because Saturn by the progressed moon is getting afflicted. So that brings the stress of the accusation and the hurt, which is Mars, all involved in this energy. Okay. The question is the grand trine capable of resolving it? Yes, it is.
Mhm.
Okay. If he ignores the need for communication and honesty and openness, it's going to only cause more problems, right?
Right, because then you only have that Pluto and Saturn left. If you don't incorporate the communication that Mercury is trying to give you to solve the problem, you're gonna, stay with the problem.
So, Jared, how does this gel with the situation as you see it?
Yeah, it's identical. I mean, that is the situation. I mean, it was really discussed that the issue is communication. And I've already committed to being more communicative so that this doesn't happen. And yeah, I mean, there's also some transformation going on because it has the potential for me to go to a different phase, basically. I mean, I've had a lot of opportunities coming to me too, left and right. I mean, around the time of this situation. So no matter what, everything is going to turn out well. Could turn out even better than before.
Well, that's how Pluto works, by the way. Pluto is transformation, and it's generally very often done through a crisis. Okay. So you'll come out well in all this situation. And we were going to do this at class today, but I got to thinking about it last night, and I said, I want him to sleep well tonight. So I called him last night, and I said, things look really good. And I really want you to be able to do this in your own life, in your charting. You see the impact that an astrologer can have.
Yeah.
Not only on your peace of mind, but also as a warning. Okay.
I also wanted to add that Saturn is there in the 5th house, which is creative endeavors, as well as entrepreneurial endeavors. And then with it being in the sign of Aquarius, could further give indications to the technological side of your work and what you do. And that's how the house and the sign will kind of hone in on the details of your situation.
That's my girl. That's what I want to hear. See, this is where when we start becoming really astute with all this, we start pulling in the other little indicators.
Mhm.
Okay. And that's when you become an astrologer, when you start seeing all the different little ramifications. And that's why I don't discourage you from studying all the different techniques and all the books and all the astrology interpretations, because it's a vocabulary you'll learn. And the more rich it becomes, the better you communicate those things. So anyway, good. Okay, well, I just want you to get back to the cosmic key a little more. Don't get too far astray. And that's for you, Vanita, a little bit. Don't get too far astray with all this transit stuff. Okay, you've got 3 major tools that are very powerful, and these override everything else. Okay, pretty much. So all these transits out here, so you go to Jupiter over here and you can start giving it interpretations, and it's okay. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying, remember the core truth that you've learned. Okay, don't get so off of it that you've forgot the primary essential tools you have. And this is where I want to keep you back on track. Okay. Any questions, by the way, about anything? That doesn't have to be anything. It can be any subject at all, but anything I can address.
I don't think so. Not really.
All right. Okay. All right. So let's get out of here. And I'd like to just start giving you some kind of their internal tests. I want you to just think about them. Okay.
Okay.
When you're dealing with Neptune afflictions or energies, I want you to think about all the meanings there are. Neptune is very mysterious, very difficult sometimes, because it's kind of illusions. It is illusions. It's like movies, which people like to watch, which are, if you think about it, nothing but shadows on a wall. And you ever think about it, it's really what it's about. What are the things you're looking at, and how real are they? Sure, they're actors in them playing a part, but Neptune covers so many areas and depths of illusions, and some of it is alcohol, for example. Sometimes it's prison. Sometimes it's sorrow, self-undoing. Neptune can rule all of these things. 12th house is very much impacted also by those things. Like I have my Sun and Mercury in my 12th house. It's in the house of imprisonment. Okay. So if I'd have been young enough and smart enough to look at my chart, and then I'd see it scoring Mars in the 2nd house, which is the house of money and property, and armed robbery wouldn't have been in my vocabulary. I would have never gone that direction in my life if I had an astute sense of the truth. You see where I'm going?
Yeah.
So obviously, born with Mars in the 2nd house, and Pisces, by the way, which also is Pisces is a Neptune sign. It's the sorrow and self-undoing sign. I spent a lot of years in sorrow and self-undoing, a lot of years with my Sun and Mercury. I was always wallowing in self-pity. And Neptunian energies and Neptunian energies and 12th house influences, especially when afflicted, you'll find very often people feel like they're the martyr. Okay. And that is a sign of a martyr. So they will spend their whole life grieving over past events and spend their whole life feeling like they've been martyred. And that is something you'll see in a chart very strong. So remember, you're looking at three things always. It seems like the influences are built on those three things: the sign, the house, and the planet. So sometimes I don't seem to give enough significance to the houses, but you will, as you grow with this, you'll start to see their impact. For example, Saturn in my fourth, okay? Fourth house. So Saturn does, what does it do? It takes away, it causes hardships. It causes a lot of karmic lessons. So Saturn in my fourth is my early life, my early childhood. Had a hell of a bad life, in my early years. And it affected me, throughout my life, the impact of abuse from step parents or foster parents, and from being in boarding homes when I was young. All of those fourth house matters, which rules the early childhood and the home. All of those things were deficient. Saturn, which is a deficiency, a lack. You remember I told you Saturn is either half full. I mean, Jupiter's half full and Saturn's always half empty.
Mhm.
So it's a viewpoint. It's a consciousness we're dealing with. And so even when I'm talking to you about your own charts, you should be able to look at Saturn and say, what is this trying to tell me? What is the lesson I was supposed to learn? Where's that message coming from? And it's generally, you'll learn a lot about your own sense of what you feel is lacking in your life. And it's easy to go back and say, oh, poor Ron, it's the reason he went through all the things he went through. And so when you're dealing, in my case, Saturn was in Aries, that amplifies the problem. It's exalted in Libra, but it's in its fall. It's in its fall in the sign of Aries. So Saturn's in Mars sign. It doesn't do well there. All right. So all of this is kind of signals you're getting. You should be able to put them together. Let me go to who would like to have a chart looked at? Nobody's going to speak.
I think Destiny is about ready to go through her Saturn return coming up. Saturn is 0 degrees Pisces. We're at 23 Aquarius right now. It might be.
What is it doing again? What aspect?
She is about to hit her Saturn return soon.
Okay.
Soon being in, a couple months. Her Saturn is in 0 degrees Pisces. And Saturn right now is in 23 degrees Aquarius. So she's coming up on her Saturn return. So it might benefit her if that's
Destiny,
okay with her.
Would you like to do this, Destiny?
Of course, I would love to.
All right, good. Let's do it. It's good to have you with us, by the way. So let me see if I can find your chart without going to, okay. Let me go to open. Let's try to find Destiny. By the way, Jared, did you get a chance to buy any of these programs?
No, I don't have those yet. I've been using a website that works pretty well, but I will get those, those programs.
You don't have to if you're getting it. Okay, it's fine,
Yeah, I found a decent website that seems to work pretty well. But yeah, I'm open to getting whatever is needed.
Okay. Okay, what happened? Where did that go? Destiny? I saw you there. Okay. Not open. Wonder why. Destiny.
I can bring her up for the cosmic key and then I'll email it to you if you give me 1.5 minutes.
Okay, great. I don't know why it doesn't come up. Let me try it again with Can you all see the screen, what I'm doing or not?
No, you haven't shared your screen yet.
I didn't share it? Okay. All right, let me find if I can get her from another place. Open. Mhm. Ah, I got you. Okay, there she is. Okay, I've got her up on, let me share the screen so you guys can see it. Okay. Okay, now you can see Destiny's chart. Now, let me show you, Jared, why it's a valuable little thing to have. Of course, you're gonna, did you ever get Intrepid working?
I did. Yeah, it's working.
You did? Oh my God, really?
Yeah, it's working on this computer. This laptop.
Then you don't need to purchase anything else. You got Intrepid.
You don't need it. You don't need to buy this.
Okay.
I do just want to tell you that the transit that's showing for her, it's for November of last year.
Yeah, I'm gonna update it. I was gonna
Okay.
just show him how to do that.
Oh, okay. And I
Okay,
sent
so-
you her current tri-wheel. It's in
Okay,
your
so-
email.
Let's do transit by wheel. There it is today, right there.
Okay.
Okay, so 22 Aquarius.
Mhm. And it's hitting, it's about to really
Okay.
hit everything right there for her in the second house.
Well, it's like Saturn's at 1 degree Pisces, right?
Right.
So it's actually coming up, it just went past her sun and a moon conjunction, which should been good for your work and for, income. It should have been positive things going on with your property or money. Now you moved back with your mom?
Yes. Yep. She sold the condo. That's where I was staying. Yeah.
So you've been, you're still working in the same position, right?
Yeah. hmm
And you got a raise, didn't you, or something?
Yeah. In April.
Okay, see, all that's coming up. That would have been, Saturn would have been going over your moon and all these things about then, and setting off the moon, sun. And sun is, you got to recognize the moon's your comfort zones and things like that. And you had really a nice period of time where you were in the condo.
hmm
Okay, over that period of time, the moon is your home and feeling emotionally secure and all that stuff. And then you had the sun, which is where you get praise. Why do you think we celebrate a birthday on our birthday? It's recognition, it's praising you and giving you some gifts, okay? And generally when we see the sun impacted by Saturn and the moon, we see emotional comfort and we see praise. You get a raise, recognition for your work, things like that. That's what Saturn and the moon can do, and Saturn and sun can do. So these were all positive energies here. So we've got another, probably, here's a nice thing, Jared. You can take and you can move forward with that Intrepid program. And you
Okay.
can move over and just keep going up because you just put the dates in and it'll move forward. And it does move everything for you. Moves the transits as well as the progressions. So they're all moved together.
Okay.
But anyway, so your Saturn's moving up to Saturn, but it's going to take probably about 8 months for that to happen. So the main thing we want to look at, do you remember I told you don't prophesy something that's not in the root of the tree? In other words, if the chart doesn't show afflictions and yet Saturn sets itself up to make a cross or a crises or something, it's not going to have much impact because your chart is not natally showing that as part of the root of the tree. So don't prophesy things that you don't see in the chart. Making sense? For example, we want to look at Saturn and we say, it's at 1 degree Pisces. Okay. So we look at the chart and we say, what is it doing in the chart? Is it afflicted? No. Unless we look at the semi-squares. So if Saturn is 1 degree Pisces, so there's 30 degrees in the sign. So there's, let's say 30. Saturn to Uranus is not afflicted. So 23 and 7 and 30 is only 37 degrees. So it's not 45 degrees aspect. So I'm looking around the chart and I'm asking myself, is Saturn heavily afflicted? Okay. Now, here's the thing. Saturn is in Pisces and it's conjunct Mercury. Am I right? My eyes are not the best. Let me see where they're.
Conjunct Mercury, yeah.
Okay, good. Can I make this bigger? Yeah. Okay. So if you look at the chart, the most important thing with Saturn is that it's making a wide orb conjunction to Mercury and the Sun and the Moon, actually. So that shows that the whole area of life in the second house is going to get hit, let's say, in about probably 8 months. And if what I would want to do is we could look at an ephemeris, or I could do it another way, is find out when Saturn's going to hit over here. And it moves about a degree a month, roughly. So,
Okay.
so if it's probably 8 degrees to get to the end of the sign,
Mhm.
7.5 degrees, maybe 8, and then it's 1. So the influences are 2 degrees applying, 1 degree separating. So if it's at 2 degrees applying, it means that when it's at 28 Aquarius, it's going to begin to impact. Now, Mercury is going to get it first because it's at 27.
Well, that's Venus, right?
Oh, you know what it is? I thought I was reading this wrong.
No, it's on the, yeah, that's Venus right there.
Okay, that's okay. That's what it's all about. And Venus is conjunct Saturn in her chart and the Sun. So I can speak to this. It's all right to be honest and speak to this. Okay. There's been a lot of sorrow in your life because of relationships.
Yes, I
Okay,
would say so.
very much so. I know you well. So, and it all comes down to Saturn being conjunct, and it's only 3 degrees away, 3 or 4 degrees away from Venus. And so it's also your sun, which is your heart, which means that a lot of accusations have gone on in your relationships, constant accusing, fault finding. And I know you went through that. I went through it big time. And it was hard for you to break away from it because, your sun is in Aquarius. Aquarius is a sign of fixity. Remember, always remember your fixed signs, mutable, cardinal. The fixed signs don't want to break out. They just hang in there like a bulldog and not let go, right? That was you,
Precisely.
Yeah. So anyway, and then Saturn is in the sign of sorrow. Okay, Pisces. Okay. Let me tell you something. You have the most powerful Jupiter that can have in a chart. It's elevated, it's in Scorpio. It's not necessarily the best sign, but okay, it's very sexual, Scorpio, okay. It just means the energies, though, of being in the midheaven, which is, by the way, your career house. The 10th house rules your career. Your 6th house rules your work, your servile work, things you do in a servile way. Your career is the 10th. You're destined to achieve high accomplishments in terms of career. You're destined to ultimately probably excel in big ways. And the Jupiter's the future, so it shows the possibility of reaching a kind of a a counseling role on some level, which is Jupiter. Jupiter's
Okay.
it's a teacher, and it's capable of reaching high roles in terms of counseling and working with others and teaching others. You probably would keep getting promoted to a place where that's what you do. So Saturn conjunct Venus. And you've been through so many hard lessons, I know, in life with relationships. And the Saturn is the tester, and it's the accuser, and it's also the spirit of sometimes non-worth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. Okay. So a lot of the problems that are brought into the relationships are self-inflicted from your own inability to recognize your beauty and your goodness.
Mm-hmm.
And so I deserve this. I deserve being abused. I deserve the abuse I take
Yep.
because it's all my fault, right? So I think what we want to do as Saturn moves up in another 8 months is be really careful not to get into a relationship like that again.
Okay.
Okay, because it can have
Definitely.
can be the same as the relationship you had with Harry. We end
Yeah.
up with this,
You don't want another one of those.
not at all, not at all. So, okay. And a lot of this will depend upon your sense of self-worth. And getting
That's
out of,
fun.
and getting out of the accusation role. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You got to remember, Saturn is not only triggering the Venus, but it's the sun and also the moon.
Yep.
Guess who the moon represents?
Mom.
Your mother.
Yeah.
And what happens with your mother all the time?
Yeah. Frequent.
Frequent fights and
Yeah.
arguments and this energies of division, separation, alienation. It's hard for you to live at home
Yeah.
because I don't know that you're going through it again, but it's something that is paramount going to happen. Okay.
Well, that's why I found it ironic that the timing of coming back home when my return's coming up. So that was funny to
Yeah,
I'm aware of, I guess.
well, listen, you and Vanita stay in touch with each other. She can help you so much,
Yeah,
and in helping you, by the way, she's helping herself.
definitely. Yeah.
Okay, we're dealing with issues of self-worth and
Mm-hmm.
the accusing spirit and all that stuff, self-directed or not. It's something that it's an issue that needs to be resolved, because as soon as you start resolving this issue, it's going to fade away. Okay.
Okay.
So, okay. Any questions about this aspect? I think
No, but I did just want to say it'll cross in December. It'll cross your sun in December, Venus in February, and then March will be the return. But I'll be here December, January, February, March. So
good for you. Good for you. She can help you guide through this. Honestly.
Thank you.
So listen, it's so important. You got to get this spirit of, you got a quick temper,
Yeah, I do.
I don't know where that come from, that Mars conjunct the moon. That's
Mhm.
emotional outburst. Okay. The
Mhm.
moon conjunct Mars. I mean, it's only 9 degrees apart.
They've gotten better with age, but
Yeah, I know it.
they present themselves at times still.
I know. You're very self-aware. So, I'm happy that this group's all together. I want you to stay in touch. And I mean, Jared, I want you to be part of this family, okay?
Yes, absolutely.
You
he doesn't
guys
have a
can-
choice at this point. He's stuck with us.
I got it.
Okay.
I got it. You're just such a beautiful group. Couldn't have happened better, this really couldn't have happened better. So, okay, so we kind of looked at this thing. So, and by the way, there's nobody can guide you through these periods better than Vanita. She can pull you through them. All right. Anything else? Anything we should be discussing here that you'd like to discuss?
Not necessarily from me. I mean, I've got, I've got some studying to do for myself. I've got plenty of study materials. I have a lot of recordings to watch and really let them sink in. So I really don't have any new questions,
Okay, well, we'll keep it to an hour today. I don't
Okay.
keep record of it. You know that. You're my student. You're always my students. All of you are. And
Yes.
so whenever we need something, we're here for you, and whatever, it goes both. So I want to make sure that when we're studying this astrology, you just saw the influence of Pisces, didn't you, in that chart, in
Yeah.
Destiny's chart? Destiny is one of the things that Destiny has had to deal a lot with, was the constant accusing of her relationship, being accused all the time. She couldn't do anything right. And
A
so
question, Ron, after you're done about Saturn being in Pisces.
it's a difficult position because it makes for the martyr.
That's what I was, isn't it? Yeah. Like we can find issues with addiction and kind of escapism with
Beautiful.
that, correct?
Good
Yeah.
for you. Now you're talking astrology. You were addicted to Harry, quite truthfully.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
in some way. I think I'm struggling with nicotine right now, so I was trying to be mindful of just moving away from that before the next 8 or so months.
Yeah, you don't want to have that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. How much are you smoking a day?
I don't smoke cigarettes, but it's ironic because it started with Harry. So I've always smoked marijuana. But then when he started putting the rolled tobacco and the weed to make it spliffs.
Yeah,
So I remember initially I was like, oh, I can't inhale properly, get this stuff out. And then time passes and put more in. So that's been about, I wouldn't say, it's just something that I want to move away from because I don't like it mentally. I've been smoking consistently since I was 15, but I was always able to, hey, I want to take a month break. And there was never an issue with that until the tobacco was mixed with it. And now I notice it's more of an escapism thing to a certain extent. So yeah, I would say that's been why I started dating him when I was 20, 21. So the last like 5 or 6 years.
yeah. Well, I'm glad you brought that up because this can cause problems. And Saturn in Pisces, it rules addiction, and
See,
Saturn can,
that's what was starting to click more lately.
yeah.
Because it's been, I would say I go through periods where it just kind of, we'll say, raises itself. And then, yeah, so I'm working on, I just brought Loranges. They dissolve under your tongue. So
Yeah.
they have great reviews. We're hoping that
Yeah,
that helps a little bit. So
yeah. Who was it? The actor that always kept a sucker in his mouth to keep from smoking.
and I don't
Savalas,
know off the top of my head, but
yeah, whatever, Savalas or whatever his name was, big bald-headed guy.
a lot of the times it's like the fixation for people.
Yeah.
I don't know it's necessarily that. I think it's solely just the chemical reaction of, if I don't for a while, I'll just become really on edge and on edge. So, and that goes, I think, back to like my sun and moon conjunction, because I battle with my actions and thoughts a lot.
Good for you.
To act on the actions kind of thing.
Well, you're very introspective, and I'm glad you opened up about that because this can cause some problems. Okay, ultimately it can. So, some of it's comes back down to this whole thing of self.
Undoing.
Yeah, kind of self-undoing, but also this like there's often with all these Saturn energies in the chart, there's a kind of this almost like a self-hatred sometimes with Saturn, and it's unconscious more than it is conscious.
Yep.
So, you're so beautiful, you really are, and you're physically you're gorgeous. So you attract really easily, you attract men, but you're also very discriminating, and you're very clear about the lines and relationships.
Yep.
Yeah, I admire you a lot. I think that a lot of the issues come from the mother, and I don't want to get into who's.
Yeah, I think I don't think I realized it until I got older that it was really just an emotional lack overall. It was very much so I can give you money when you need, and which is helpful. I mean, she does take care. She would do anything. She would lay down and give her life for me if she had to. I know that much. But in like my subconscious, I know that the nurturing wasn't where, I mean, and not to the blame is on both parties, but to a certain extent when we're children, we're just soaking it all up. So that was really the prime time. And
Mhm.
I have pretty vivid memories of my real dad and her fighting, and that would have been at like 2 years old. So I can imagine they were of big impact if I'm remembering something 2 years old.
But your mom's got such a bombastic kind of.
But she's her energy it's hard. It's funny because I've lived in this house for what, 25 years, not counting college. So you'd think I'd be used to loud noises and stuff, but I'm just so much polar opposite than really my dad and my sister. They're just they tend to be loud spoken, and I'm more of a lax. Loud noises disrupt my energy pretty quickly.
Yeah. Well, you're so aware, and I think that ideally it'd be good for you to get out of the house again and get your own place.
Yeah.
So
I've really been zoning in on just saving money too, because
Yeah.
I have to feel secure before I can go out. So,
yeah,
which I am, and I just want to keep myself in a good position.
yeah.
So I'm looking to buying houses soon too. We're waiting for the market to go down a little bit. Looks like
You
it's
want to
starting.
buy a house?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
want to ultimately rent one, but definitely start to buy, to get an investment underneath.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, your mom is like you said, she's the most giving person in the world, I mean.
Yeah, she actually just got home. Just friendly FYI.
Okay.
I
Well,
did just
listen,
want to say to Gerald really quick, in reference to your guys' conversation, I just wanted to point out how they were using Neptune, Pisces in the 12th house almost interchangeably when talking about the same themes, just to shed a little light on those things, sharing rulership and everything. And so when he first started talking about Neptune, he would, switch and talk about his own 12th house, but still talking about the same theme. So I just wanted to point that out for when you rewatch this, and then just, in correlation to what we talked to, the Neptune 12th house and the sign of Pisces, those are going to deal with the same themes, are going to work interchangeably between those three.
Yeah, that's great. Actually, that cleared up a lot of questions that I had about, because there's like 2 or 3 signs, houses, and planets that I'm still
Right.
getting, right? I mean, the other ones I've got, but Pisces, today we cleared up a lot, right? So
Good.
right now I got a good understanding of
Good.
how Pisces and Neptune interact. I guess the only 2 left are Aquarius and Capricorn. I kind of get Capricorn already too. I mean, that's
We'll work on it, but I was glad that kind of coincidentally was the focus for today. So I'm glad that
I'm really happy about that. That's probably the one I had the least understanding about, Pisces.
Beautiful. Well, Aquarius Destiny is quite the professional with, I don't know if you saw all that Aquarius in her chart, but we could probably clear that up pretty quickly as well. She's pretty familiar with that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Definitely.
you're a great group, you'll probably go on for years together, all of you. just stay in touch, keep on doing Zoom. I think that really, Vanita is a teacher. She doesn't know it yet, but she is. She's a teacher. And what is it I said to you the other day about teaching, Vanita?
Well, you've said to me if you're a teacher and you never have a student surpass your work, then you're not that great of a teacher, right? Is that what you were referencing?
The teacher that never has a student excel him is not a good teacher. Yeah, that's one of my beliefs. It really is. So to see you guys blossom and see you grow and the talent that's coming out of you is just exciting for me. The other thing is, remember those little sayings that I gave you the other day?
Mhm.
One of them was about teaching. You remember which one it was?
I was trying to find room to write those down as quick as I.
That's all right.
Hold on. To teach is to learn twice.
Good,
Mm,
good.
I like that.
So I tell my students, when you're, a lot of them will say, well, I don't know enough. I say, you know more than most. So if you don't have an answer for somebody you're teaching, you simply say, I'll get the answer. I don't have it yet. Okay. There's nothing about acknowledging you don't know everything. But if what you do know, you can start teaching. Okay. Even if it's a one-on-one with somebody that wants to learn it. In your case, maybe your wife, your girlfriend, all of these things can be taught, and it reinforces your own knowledge and your own abilities. So I've been teaching for how many years, I can't even tell you, but I'm always learning. I really am. And I don't think I'll ever get to a point where I feel I have all the answers. I don't. Vanita did an amazing thing with me the other day. She asked me to look at a chart she was going to do for somebody, and I misguided her so much. And yet she read that chart, and it was for Jared's, was it his brother? Yeah.
Wow.
And she
job.
went and she carried the ball despite my bad input.
Well, that was a test. She didn't know and she passed.
Yeah.
She's amazing, You guys are a great team.
That's awesome. Good job.
And I don't know how
Love
many
you all, and I
times
love
Gerald
you.
has asked questions and I've had to be like, actually, I don't know. Let's come back to it next class. But he's always
Yeah.
asking questions, and a lot of them I do not know the answers to. But through looking and wanting to find an answer for him, I definitely learned myself, just full circle back to the quote there. It's helpful for me as well.
The whole thing, I don't know why we got on Pisces so strong today in 12th house and all, but Pisces 12th house and Neptune are so, if you look at the symbol of Neptune, it's a circle being pierced by the cross. Have you ever thought about it?
The
Think
circle,
about
it's
a crescent,
okay, yeah, right.
Crescent, which is the soul
Mhm.
being pierced by the cross.
Mm-hmm.
It goes right through that as you make that symbol. You all see it?
Yeah.
So these symbols are like the primary message, but we don't see them very often. And we don't get the message from them, which is trying to talk to us and tell us something.
Mhm.
Okay. So like, for example, Pluto. Pluto is a circle above a circle above a crescent, above a cross. Pluto is the most spiritual of all the planets. Would you believe that? We
Wow.
think of it as a sexual planet, but it's really very sexual, but it's also very sensual, and it's very spiritual. Now, think about this. The spirit is the circle. The soul is the crescent. The cross is the suffering of the body. And the most dominant influence of that symbol in this Pluto is the spirit, and it's not even touching the soul. It's resurrected. It's a resurrected spirit, which is what Christ was about. So it's not even touching the soul. And the soul is dominating the physical. Edgar Cayce said Pluto is the planet of Christ consciousness. You very often, with these minor planets, will miss their deeper meaning, like Neptune. Neptune's a minor planet. Pluto's a minor planet. Uranus is a minor planet. They're sometimes very hard to interpret. But if you look at Uranus, I should be putting them up here for you. Uranus is two crescents on the side with a cross in between. And think about what Uranus is. It's intuition. It's it's the ability to listen with both ears, if you would, on the outside here, and get information into the physical body. It's like it's the planet, we say, of sudden unexpected events. It's intuition, it's earthquakes, it's computers, it's electronic knowledge, it's all this stuff. The age of Aquarius was very much ushered in now. We've got it into this, we're into this age. There's many things that happened with the ushering in of the electronic age, the age of Alexander Graham Bell, for example. The first thing that was ever spoke over a transmitted message electronically was my name. Watson, are you there?
I think I remember that. Yeah,
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. Watson, are you there?
that's fine.
So, you know, this whole age is being kind of coming in an unexpected way. Aquarius is said to be sudden, unexpected. People say, when is the next prophet going to be? Christ was the prophet of Pisces. He ushered in the Piscean age. He was the wounded for our transgressions. That was the ushering in, the moving of the procession of the equinox, where the planet, where everything moved, the signs moved over the Aries cross. So he was the sacrificial lamb of Aries, but he was also, and he was wounded for our transgressions. All that's Aries, Mars. Moses was ushering in the age of Aries, and he was saying, put the blood of the lamb on your doorpost and your firstborn will be saved. When he was asked who sent me, Moses said, I am and I am and I am. Tell him I am that I am that I am sent you. He didn't say, tell him I am and I was and I will be, because he's the eternal I am. And that's all in you. But anyway, the point being is that every age is ushered in with a prophet. And each prophet is a prophet in his life, not just his words. Christ was the wounded for our transgressions, but he was a man of sorrows because he ushered in the Piscean age. He ushered in the age of belief. Key word of Pisces is I believe. It's not Aquarius, which is I know. I was married to one before. She knew it all. Anyway, so I shouldn't say that. So I know, okay. Aquarius no. Okay. Destiny, you're not a know-it-all, but Aquarians know. And they know intuitively because it's a sign of intuition. So the best education you can get is intuition, not the one you pay for. Okay. So if you think about most knowledge that's ever come to man, it's come in those quiet, silent moments when somebody's got the lights go off and all of a sudden they know something. And it changes the world, their inventions, their knowledge. So Aquarius is a sign of freedom, brotherhood, sign of revolution. It's a sign of sudden unexpected things. And that's the age we've been moving into, Aquarius. We've seen a lot of revolutions around the globe, and they'll keep happening as the despots begin to fall. So there's also some scriptures that bother me a little bit. One of them is that the elements shall be melted in a fervent heat. Sounds like nuclear war to me. And we're heading towards that, I think, unfortunately, with too many people with the bomb. So everything is, when we talk astrology, you know, we're talking about major influences, we're talking about processional influences, which are the ages. We're talking about the Piscean age of 2,000 years of belief, I believe. All of Christianity is about belief, believe in the Lord Jesus Christ and thou shalt be saved. All things are possible unto who? Them that believe. Okay, so we've been in the Piscean, the age of the fish Fridays, Catholicism, all that's Piscean, and it's an age of sorrows also. Okay, Pisces and Neptune rules oil, by the way. Okay, so as we sucked all the oil out of the earth, what is happening? The old prophets knew what would happen. They said there would be earthquakes and violent earthquakes in many places, in diverse places. Why? Because if you take all the oil out of the earth, what do you think is going to keep the shock absorber from crashing? There's no oil there. You have shocks on your car. There used to be oil in there, and it kept you from hitting a bump and taking a jolt. Now, as they do fracking, they're doing more of that. They've figured out ways to get more oil out of the soil. So now you have earthquakes in Oklahoma. They never had earthquakes in Oklahoma before. But now they're fracking, and they're doing deep sea drilling. They could never do deep sea drilling before. In the last 10 years, whatever, they developed ways to reach down and get that oil. It's deep, deep, deep under the ocean's floor. Now what do you have? You have tsunamis. Why? Because when the earth quakes, it doesn't just move, it smacks. So the prophets of old understood all these things. So they predicted there'd be earthquakes and famines and pestilence. They also predicted what? There'd be tsunamis. Said the earth would quake and the waves would roar. Tell me they're not prophets. And how much of a prophet does it take to understand what's going on? How do you suck all the oil out of the earth and not expect that these earthquakes are going to continue and they're going to get worse?
So funny because I arrived at the same conclusion before on my own. Like it's funny that what you're saying totally is what I believe to be happening, and I believe also on top of that that some of the people in charge of doing this, that's making this happen, they kind of know what they're doing, and it's part of the Saturnian consciousness that they are subjected to. That they are, causing some of these issues, for their own material gain.
Exactly.
Although, yeah, it's literally, I think everything that's on the earth is supposed to be there, right? We shouldn't be sucking out fluid from anywhere,
Right,
it's
that's
needed.
right.
It's needed, you don't, like you said, you're not going to take the oil out of your car, you're not going to take, what fluid should you take out that isn't replenished? Because we live in a cyclical world, right? So there should be cycles, but you can't regenerate oil. You take it out, it's gone.
That's right.
So,
It's almost like you can put it all together like a puzzle. And when you think about it, it amazes me how much the ancients knew. I really am amazed when for example, in astrology, for example, we know that Venus rules and Libra rules the kidneys. And Venus also rules sweets. And what is the first thing that happens when you get diabetes? The things that get affected? The kidneys, they go. Think about this. How did they put this all together? The love of sweets has been the demise of a lot of people's lives with the constant sugars that we're taking in all the time, which in the old days never happened. But today we're just sucking it up. And so you got diabetes, you got all these different things coming. So, it's the connections are so amazing to me. We love somebody. What do we give them? We give them sweets. Venus, that's what it's all about. So there's so many connections when you start seeing, like you saw that oil thing earlier, and you're like, this is part of being an astrologer. It's being able to see the cohesive whole rather than the part. Think about it. I really see an astrologer is able to put things in. They see they see the forest, but not always the trees. Saturn likes to see the trees and never the forest. You know, it's kind of the viewpoints. You see where I'm coming from?
That's a great analogy. It's pretty deep.
Yeah.
You know, makes perfect sense, right?
So what we're dealing with is the ability to see the whole. Jupiter sees the whole. Jupiter sees the unity of it all, the holiness of it, the wholeness of it. Saturn sees the division, separation, the alienation. Saturn sees the parts. Very good. Saturn is the watchmaker. Remember, I told you I had a watch, and the name of it was Hellbros, Hellbrothers, Hellbros. Used to be a very popular watch brand, and it had Saturn on its symbol, on its face. Okay, Hellbros. Father Time, the measure off of all things. The old watchmakers knew where their trade came from. So, chronometers, they weren't named watches, they were called chronometers. That's after Chronos, Saturn, Father Time. So, meter, chronometer, meter, that's a measure off of something. You see where I'm coming from?
Mhm.
Words are amazing, guys. You know, it's like the language of astrology. The things we don't see, when you see words like disaster, you don't know it's from the stars, discord in the stars, aster. You know, there's so many things that connected. And that's what your ability is. When I see somebody, and I see a lot of things because I kind of see a whole, and my visions are a little different in the holistic sense. And I think the holier you are, which is really a word, the holier you are, the more integrated you are. The more integrated you are, integrity comes from love. If I love you, I'm combined with you. I'm unified with you. The ability to unify with someone and become one with them is only done in love. You notice we say we're in love. Have you ever thought about it? I'm in love, but you never say I'm in hate, because you don't merge with that. There's no merging with hatred. It's not a unifying force. So language is so important, you know, and then the more you observe and listen to what other people speak. I mean, I've had people, I remember picking up a hitchhiker one time, my wife and I, and it was a college town. And the kid was talking, and I don't know how, but he kept saying circuitous, a word I've never hardly ever heard. Circuitous means runs full circle. You know, I finally looked at him. I said, "Are you a Pisces?" He said, "How do you know that?" I says, "Because you're talking with words that are Piscean, circuitous, full circle." And if you listen to people very often, they reveal their signs, you know. So, you know, and their consciousness is revealed as well. Their consciousness, people that are talking constantly in a divisive way, in an accusing way, in a judgmental way, you know, Saturn's working strong in that chart. It could be Capricorn, it could be Saturn, it could be, you know, that their charts reflect that. You'll see it in their charts, is what I'm saying. There's not much Jupiter there. There's not much Jupiter influence. Remember, I was talking to Destiny about the fact the most powerful planet in her chart is Jupiter. It's right in the midheaven. It's overlooking her birth. And it's a planet of good fortune. Very protective. But you have to listen to your gut feeling about things. Are you hearing that, Destiny? She with us? She may have
I've
left.
gotten better with that.
Now you've got to
I
listen
do
to
notice I'm lucky with things that could have gone the very opposite as well. So
yeah, because you're very, very intuitive, and you have a very good perspective of things. And Jupiter is called the planet of good fortune, and it's always overseeing, looking over you. It's like you have an angel over you, literally.
amazing. Yeah.
And these are angels, influences. We call them angles, the angle of influence, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And so you have an angel overlooking you always. And it's protected you because you've been in positions where you could have gotten deep trouble.
Definitely.
Okay. So anyway, we've gone for an hour and a half, and I think we'll let go of it. I could spend all day with you guys.
Yeah.
I'm kind of just meandering here and chatting. So I hope that it's been meaningful and useful and good for you guys.
It always is.
Yeah, it's been great. Another very useful, very meaningful talk, and I appreciate it very much.
Okay, well, did you
Thanks, Ron.
talk to your boss yet?
Not yet, no, but we've already started to go in that direction anyway. But yeah, I haven't had
Okay, good.
direct contact.
You tell him what I told you to say.
Mhm.
You
Yeah, well,
understand? Acknowledge your mistakes, just,
Yeah.
and then be honest with him, talk to him truthfully,
yeah,
okay? Yeah, I mean, that's your nature anyway, but give him my book if he needs to know what you're about.
yeah. I mean, he's a tough one. I mean, some people are. I don't know. I've talked to Benita about this before. Some people, he's a pretty relatively powerful guy.
Yeah,
He's a lot of success monetarily, and I feel like sometimes that detracts from your ability to learn new things, especially if you're sort of set in your ways. So
Yeah.
I don't know if he's. I don't know if talking to him directly about this is going to be a good thing or not. That's kind of where I'm at right now.
yeah, maybe not then. If
Yeah.
you have to make those judgments in a good way.
Yeah.
It'd be better not to. Most importantly is that you just really open up and communicate with them on every level you can.
Right.
And maybe
Right, exactly.
one of those,
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was thinking about what you were saying yesterday. I thought gave it a lot of thought, and it seems like, yeah, the most important thing is that I'm open to communication, especially about things that are concerning the business and other things like that, what's going on with me. But I don't have to tell them every detail of what's going on, because that's could open a different,
Yeah.
different sensibility.
Yeah, some people are just not open to it at all, and it just would close them down.
Right.
So, yeah, I was thinking about that even after I talked to you. So let's go step by step with this, and I think things are going to resolve themselves pretty nice. All right, guys. I hate to go, but I'm going to end it. And thank you for being here and joining this.
Thank
and
you, Ron.
Thanks again.
Great to see you again. Join us more often.
I will.
All right. All right.
Have a
Bye,
good
guys.
rest of your
Enjoy
day.
your day.
Okay.
Thanks. You too.
Bye-bye.